Well, hello, and thank you for jumping into this 2024 Premium Reseller Spreadsheet tutorial. And thank you for your purchase. I'm guessing if you're here, you've already purchased my sheet and now you're coming to get instructions on how to fill it out to use the features that are encompassed in this sheet. Just in case you're new to me, my name is Jason. I'm a full-time reseller and a full-time spreadsheet creator. So I've taken both of these worlds and had a lot of fun along the journey. And now I'm here to help you use this spreadsheet so that you can start to measure your business and get an idea of your business trends and how you can grow even more. So thank you. I appreciate your order. I appreciate you coming here and watching. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. I'll explain how to do that in just a second. Now, many of you have purchased my 2023 sheet, and now you've purchased the 2024 sheet. I'm going to be explaining how to pull in your inventory so that you can start with 2024. It's very simple. I'll put that at the end of the video. Check in the description for some of these bookmarks. You can skip ahead to what you want to watch. Many of these tabs are going to operate very similarly to what you're already used to, with the addition of a few fun key tabs. So make sure to watch the tutorial on that section of the spreadsheets. Let's go ahead and jump into the sheet now. This is going to be a more detailed video, so I want to get started and waste no time. All right, so this first page is a new page. It's the start page. I'll explain how it works in just a second. I'll let you read over this blurb, but just kind of take note of the social media links that I've got attached on this page. I encourage you to go ahead and click those links, subscribe, follow, whatever you need to do so that you're connected with me. I'm constantly posting videos, specifically this spreadsheet or Google Sheet tips in general, and as well as other reselling topics that may be of importance and value to you. Now, before I move on with the rest of the sheet, I want to go ahead and direct your attention to another new tab, and that's down here, the FAQs tab. It's toward the end of all these tabs. If you click on that, it's going to be exactly what you would expect. A bunch of questions that I've gotten over the last year or two, and I've compiled the list of commonly asked questions so that if you encounter something you're needing help with, you can come to this page and get an answer. And let me just say, for some reason, if you've checked the FAQ page, you can't find an answer to what it is you're encountering. Down here at the bottom, if you'll read this blurb, it will explain how to get in touch with me. Okay, let's go back to the Start tab. We'll scroll down past kind of this top part here to these 4 fields: platforms, expenses, stores, and categories. Now, this is where you're going to start on this sheet, and it's important that you start here. Before you do anything else, before you log inventory or sales or anything like that, start here. I'm assuming if you bought the premium sheet as opposed to like the basic, you have multiple platforms you're selling on, and you also want to track things like expenses, business expenses that you have, the stores that you're buying items from, so you can see which stores are more profitable, and also which categories are more profitable for you, so you can focus on those stores and those categories. So really quickly, let me show you how to fill this out. We'll start with platforms. You've got up to 8 here that you can track. If you're only on 3 platforms, just put in those 3. You can always add more later if you decide to make some changes or add a platform, and put the most important one in first. I'm going to put in 3 real quick just for this example. Okay, so I've got my 3 in. You've got 8 different fields here under platforms, so use as many or as little as you want. Expenses, you've got 15 here. So expenses you're going to track for your business, whether you're like self-employed, you're full-time, or whether you're just doing this as a hobby. There are definitely things you want to track. I'm not a tax expert. I can't advise you with tax topics. This is me just giving you some general tips on things that you can track, like office supplies, shipping supplies, software and apps that you use. There are a bunch of different categories that you can track. I'll go ahead and list the expenses that I commonly use, and you can make it your own as well. Okay, so I've got my 3 here. We'll just keep it short for the simplicity of time in this video. Now we're going to track stores. What stores do you actually buy stuff from? You've got up to 50 stores and 50 categories. So I'm going to go ahead and enter mine in now. Okay, so you can see I've got 3 stores here. Goodwill, Bentonville, Salvation Army, and yard sales. And then I've got categories: men's shirts, men's shoes, and men's pants. The Start tab for me right now is good enough to move on, but you fill out as much as you want. And then let me show you where these, what you've entered in, how this trickles into your sheet. So we're going to skip a bunch of these tabs and go straight to the platforms tab. You'll see that when I entered in those 3 platforms, they popped up here. Let me just make sure to clarify this. You don't want to type anything into these boxes. If you're going to add a platform, you need to go back to the Start tab and type it here, which will then transfer it to that box. We'll come back to the Platforms tab later, but let me show you how this pulls in the rest. So here are stores. The Stores tab is going to show you a bunch of different stats based on items that you've sold from that specific store that you've put in. You've also got the same thing with categories. And just like I said with platforms, with stores and categories, you don't want to type anything into these boxes. So if you're going to add stores or categories later on, just make sure to go back to the Start tab and add them in here, and they will transfer over to that tab. And then the last one is expenses. We added in 3 expenses. When we go to the expense tab down here, you notice that it pulled in those 3 expenses. Same story here. Don't type anything in this box. Go back to the Start tab and add expenses if you want to add those later on. Okay, so that's how the Start tab puts the data that you type in into this spreadsheet. Let's figure out how the rubber meets the road. So we're going to go to this second tab here, the Inventory tab. This tab is free to list all of your inventory that has not sold, whether it's been listed or not. This is the place to put it. Before I show you how I list inventory, let me just note these arrows right here. Sometimes I've had people get the sheet and it's open like this. I just clicked on the arrows and opened them. Basically, those arrows are hidden rows that I purposely hid because I didn't want you to see them and mess with these formulas. If for some reason you get to this page and you see this blue screen that says do not delete all the way down, it won't let you scroll down. And the only way you can get back to the inventory sheet, which you're on the sheet, it's just down below and you can't scroll down. You can highlight all of these do not delete columns, right click, don't delete, but click hide rows. First batch, we'll do the second, hide the rest of these rows until you get to where you've got your title here and those rows are now hidden up here. If you're curious as to why your sheet starts with line 54, that's why. Let's move on. Basically, you've got listed date on this sheet. This is the listed date that you put it online. You actually listed. Item title, obviously what that is. Units, the amount of units that you're selling for that one specific listing. The bin is the location where you are storing that item. So you may have it in bins that are labeled. You may have it in the shelf, on the shelf, in the closet, whatever. We'll get to that in a second. So for store and category, if you click the drop down, you'll notice you've got 3 different options that you've already put in to the Start menu down here. You've got the 3 stores that you designated as wanting to track. You can do the same with category. You've got the 3 categories. If you ever want to see more drop downs, more stores or categories, you'll just go back to the Start tab and fill those in here. And then they'll start to populate as more results to select from here. You've got 2 green columns here. The main thing to focus on is just don't delete them. Those are tied to the formatting. I'll show you that in just a second. Next is cost, the amount that you paid for an item at the thrift store or the yard sale or wherever you got it. Notes is here for you to use. Just fill in whatever notes would help you remember things if you want to use this. XP stands for cross-posting. I know a lot of sellers are cross-posting their listings onto multiple platforms. And this column is what I use to tell me which of my items are cross-posted and which are not. So typically I'll just put, like, after I list an item in X or a 1 in one of these columns when I've cross-posted that item. So I know which items aren't cross-posted. I can then go and cross-post them. That's a lot of times saying cross-posting, by the way. Okay, you'll see these 3 columns here, just basically keeping stats on the page. So total inventory, number of units you've got listed on this sheet. Total cost of inventory, the amount of money you've spent total on your inventory, and the average cost. What's your average across all your items listed here? And for those using the sheet last year, it used to be titled active. It's now titled inventory. So it's the same sheet, just titled differently. So let's go ahead and start. Let's just say that I'm listing items on eBay. And for this example, I'm going to use eBay. Once I've got them listed, I want to go ahead and drop these into the sheet. So let's say we'll just go off today's date, 10/25/23. And let's say that I listed this Boston Red Sox hat. So I'm going to put in a title. You make it yours. You can do shorthand and abbreviation. This is really for you to make it as quick and efficient as you want. We're going to have 1 unit in this column because it's just 1 item. The key thing to remember with the units column is it needs a number there. It can't have nothing. So most of the time you're probably going to put in 1 because you're selling 1 item. But there may be times where you're selling in a listing a bundle of, say, 3 items, and you can put a 3 in this column just remember to put a number in the column, and that will help out the rest of the sheet. The bin, again, is where that item is stored. I'm just going to use SH for shelf. I'm going to put this on the shelf, and that's where I would keep my hats. And then I've got other codes that I can use for other bins. Next, we're going to select the store that I bought it from. Let's just pretend I got this at a yard sale. So I'm going to select yard sale here from the store column. And then for category, you'll notice when I open this up, I don't really have a category that fits. Now, you don't always have to select a category. This is really up to you. But let's say you want to add a category now that you've got a handful in already. You want to add one because let's say I sell hats and I want to track my hat sales. I'm going to put in hats in the Start tab, and when I go back to category, I now have this as an option to select. So we'll select that, and then cost, let's just say I paid $1 for it at the yard sale. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and enter in 4 or 5 more inventory items so I can use those later to show you how I make sales. So let me do that real quick. So now I've quickly listed 4 more listings to go with this. Now, a question I've gotten is, what if I get back from the thrift store and I haven't necessarily listed the items yet, but I want to go ahead and put them in the sheet? You can do that too. So you can go in, add, say, the 10 items you just bought, fill out the rest of the information in the sheet over here, and then once you go list those, just put a listed date next to the item, the day that you listed it. Okay, and then the last thing in this tab, you'll notice that this started to populate some data once I put in all this information. 5 units total, $44.50 total spent on those 5 units, and an average of $8.90. So just some fun figures for you if you want to see that. That's there for you. Now the fun part, what do we do when we make a sale? Well, we're gonna go over to the sales tab, and this should be empty for you just like this. Bunch of empty boxes. Let me explain how you're gonna record a sale. On this sheet, it's very simple. I've made it to where you can quickly copy and paste your inventory into the sales tab. So we're going to go back to the inventory tab, and we're going to grab one of these really quickly. So let's just say I sold this men's free fly shirt right here. Click on the listed date of that row all the way across to the cost, and then you're going to copy it. And then you're going to go over to sales tab, and you're going to click listed date on the sales tab. So click into that cell and then paste. And you'll see that it pastes that right in with the formatting attached. And here's the reason why you don't want to delete those 2 green columns, because it's allowing space for you to record the sale and the shipping. We've pasted that in. We need to go ahead and delete this out of inventory because we no longer have it in inventory. We sold it and we're going to ship it. So going back to the sales tab, you're going to go ahead and fill out the rest of the information for this sale. So the year for 2024, obviously always going to be 2024. Let's say this occurred in January. So I listed this on October of 23, and I sold it in January of 24. Days to sell, you don't need to put anything in here. This will auto-populate. If you do put something in, it will trigger the formula. So just make sure to leave that blank. Platform, obviously the platform that you sold this on. So we're going to say eBay, and you'll notice that it's giving me the options that I put in the Start tab for platforms here. So if you want to add more in, go back to the Start tab. Okay, sold date, obviously the date we sold it on. So we'll say January 10th of 24. Okay, so we're going to scroll over now, and you'll see it automatically pulled in all this information. So we're going to skip to sale price. This is the price that you got before shipping. So let's assume that this men's free fly shirt sold for $15 plus 5 shipping. I'm going to put 15 in the sale price column, simple enough, and then 5 in the shipping column, simple enough. You'll notice that these 2 columns, which are auto-generated, will start to change once you put in numbers. So that's the fun part. You get to see your profit and your total fees as you enter the information. So we've got the sale price plus shipping collected. We've got the cost that we paid for the shirt. Now we need to go ahead and enter in the rest of the cost. So columns N through R are all the costs associated with selling this item. So when you go to ship the item, we charge the buyer $5 for shipping, but let's say that shipping only came out to $4.88. So I'm going to put in the price that I paid to ship. So that's $4.88. Platform fee will be the seller fee on whatever platform you sold it on. So if I was charged $3 on eBay for the selling fee, I'm going to put that in there. Promoted fee is what it sounds like. Not every site has a promoted fee, but certain sites like eBay have a promoted fee. And if your item's sold promoted, you'll put this in here. So I don't always have promoted fees. So if you don't, just leave it blank. But let's just say that it's sold promoted for $1.75, and that's how much I was charged in the transaction. And then the transaction fee you won't have with an eBay sale, because those are the only two costs associated with selling on eBay. But for sites like Mercari, Depop, Grailed, some of these other sites, they have a seller fee, and then they have a transaction payment fee. That's where you can put this in this column here. So only put the fees that you have, leave the rest blank. So that's how you log a sale. There are a few scenarios out there where they're a little more complex situations that I want to cover with you. So I'm going to go ahead and populate a few more sales in here really quickly, and then explain the different ways that you could be making a sale and how to do that on sites like for Poshmark, or if you're doing free shipping, or if you're doing a bundle on eBay, so that you know how to enter those in. Okay, so now I've brought the sales in, and I'm going to show you some different scenarios. So let's take a look at this one right here, the Boston Red Sox hat. Now let's say in this example, I sold it on Poshmark, sold it on January 22nd, 2024. For those of you familiar with Poshmark and other sites like Poshmark where they give you the label, you don't necessarily get charged for shipping, and neither do you collect shipping from the buyer. So when it comes to shipping on sites like Poshmark or other sites where you're given the label, you won't have a shipping collected, and you won't have a shipping cost. So let's take this example. I sold this Boston Red Sox hat. Let's say I sold it for $12 on Poshmark. Again, we're still going to put in the 12 here under sale price. I won't have shipping collected. I won't have shipping cost. That's all handled outside of me. So all I need to do is go in and put the Poshmark fee, and then I'm good. And Poshmark's pretty simple, 20%, unless it's under $15, then it's $2.95. So it's under $15, my fee is going to be $2.95. So with a Poshmark sale, very simple. Sale price, platform fee, and then you'll notice I made a profit of $8.05 on the sale of this Boston Red Sox hat. Now what do you do when you've sold an item on eBay that's a bundle? Say a buyer went through your store and they were like, I want to buy these 2 items. You guys agreed on the price and the shipping, and they bought 2 items. So I went ahead and logged in these 2 right here for eBay. So we're going to say that I sold these 2 items on eBay to a buyer. Let's just say we agreed on $60 for both shoes plus $12 shipping. So total of $72 payment from the buyer for this bundle. You'll notice with bundles, I record these as 2 transactions because really it's 2 items going out, even though they're going to the same buyer. But when it gets to where you're putting in the financials on that sale, here's where you're going to split the cost and the income between the lines, between the 2 items. So remember I said you agreed with the buyer $60 plus 12 shipping. So I'm just going to come in and put the split of 30 and 30 and 6 and 6. So obviously this adds up to $60 plus 12 shipping. You can do this however you want. It doesn't have to be half and half. If you want to do 25 and 35, you can, as long as your totals add up to what's correct. Now when you go to ship this, these 2 pairs of shoes, let's say really the shipping was only $11. So you charged 12, but it was 11. So now we're going to split the shipping cost into those 2 transactions. So 11 divided by 2 would be $5.50 each. So as long as the shipping cost adds up to your total shipping label, you're good there. You're going to do the same with the platform fee and obviously the rest of the fees. So let's just assume for the sake that my platform fee was $12. I'm going to do 6 and 6. And then it gives you the profit breakdown for each item in that bundle. The last I wanted to show you is a Mercari sale. Let's say that you sold this Sony PlayStation 4 on Mercari for $75 free shipping. So in this case, you have a $75 payment collected. You didn't collect anything shipping wise. So you have $0 collected for shipping because obviously free shipping. You go to ship it out. You're paying for the shipping because you offered it free for the buyer. Let's say it was $14.75. We're going to put that in. Platform fee is Mercari's fee. We'll just assume that it's $12. We don't have a promoted fee on Mercari, but we do have a transaction fee. And let's say this is $4.75. Okay, so on this $75 transaction, you sold it for $75. Here are all the costs associated with it. That leaves you a profit of $18.50. One last thing I want to show you, and that's what do you do when a buyer sends back an item and gets a refund? Very simple to record a refund on the sales tab. You're going to do the year, and you're actually going to do the month that you refunded the buyer, not the month they paid. So we're going to leave the sale in up here. So let's pretend this buyer, let's just for this example say that the buyer tried on the men's free fly shirt. It didn't fit. They asked to return it. We said that was okay, so they sent it back. So now it's March. We've got the item back. We refunded them. So we're going to go ahead and select March for the month that we refunded. You can skip the rest of these columns, and then when you get to here, you can just type in whatever helps you remember the return. The rest of this, you're just going to skip. You're going to go all the way over to this last column, which is the refund column. You're going to enter in the amount of the refund that you gave to the buyer as a negative number. Keep in mind on sites like eBay, whenever you refund the buyer, eBay gives you a portion of your selling fees back to you. So on a $40 refund, you're actually only going to be paying like 36 and change to the buyer because eBay is going to give you a credit for the selling fees back. Whatever the total refund is that you paid, that's how much you're going to give here. So they purchased it for $15. You're issuing a refund for $15. We're going to put that in here as a negative number. So now here's the fun part. Now that we've entered in all the sales, we get to see how this data pulls into all these different tabs. So we're going to go to the next tab, which is the day tab. This is going to tell you exactly what you think, how much you made on a given day of the year. So if you look at the days where we recorded sales on the 10th of January, there's one, the 22nd, and you can kind of skip around and see that it's pulling all the sales that we just logged with a summation of the monthly sales at the bottom. It's going to pull in both green columns on the sales tab, the sales price plus the shipping collected, because that's total money that you've collected. So fun little tab here just to see how you're doing day to day. But what if you want to know how you're doing month to month? Let's skip over to the month tab. Exactly what it sounds like. You're going to look at each month of the year and you're going to see all the stats that you may want to see. Now, there's a lot of numbers here and you may not want all of these. So just pick and choose which ones you want to focus on and use that as metrics for you and your business. So we've got the first 3 months where we've logged sales. You can see that the total sales are pulling in. And I'll quickly go across and just explain these really quickly. You've obviously got some graphs down here that will kind of highlight what's going on up here visually. You've got sales per day. So in the month of January, we're averaging $1.03 per day because we've only logged 2 sales. This will go up as we log more. We've sold 2 units in that month. We're selling 0.1 units per day. So it's going to take the amount of units you've sold and divide by the days in the month. So obviously that will go up as well as you continue to log more sales. Our average sales price, our ASP, I love looking at this stat. What am I averaging per item that I sell? So $16 according to January, and you can see it's gone up each month. Total profit is just income minus fees leaves you with this total profit for the month. Profit per unit, how much profit are you making per item? This is another key metric that I look at quite frequently. ROI is basically the relationship between the amount of money that you spent at the thrift store to get the items and what profit that money spent brought in. So if we jump ahead and look at cost of goods sold, this column here is going to take into account the total cost of those items that you sold, how much you spent to get them. So on the 2 sales that we made in January, these first 2 lines, we spent $4 to get the shirt. We spent $1 to get the hat. So when we look at our cost of goods sold, it's $5 total. So for the $5 that we spent to get those items that sold in January, they brought in $14.42 profit. So you took $5 and made $14.42 profit with it on top of your 5. So this is the relationship between your investment and what it returned. So return on investment. 288% can basically be said for every $1 that you spent in January, you brought in almost $3 in profit. I know all this is very heady and confusing. If it is, just move on and don't worry about it. You can also Google some of this stuff too if you're interested in learning more, but for the sake of time, I'll move on. Look at total refunds here. It's going to populate the refunds that you gave in each of those months. Total shipping costs, so the total you paid for shipping items in that month. Your average per item spent, so just kind of gives you an idea of how much you're spending per item on shipping labels. Cost of goods we went over. There's your average cost of goods. And this next part is kind of fun. Average days to sell. Now I didn't talk about this on the sales tab, but if we go back there real quick, I mentioned that when you log sales, this column automatically starts to populate the days that it took to sell. And basically, once you start to put money in here, these will trigger. So if you're not seeing a number yet, it's probably because you haven't put in a sales price yet. Here are the individual items and how long they took to sell each one. When you go to the month tab, it's going to take the average for that month. So in January, it took us 83 days to sell an item, and that slowly goes up. And then, of course, with the average here at the bottom of 100 days for the year. These two columns, manual entry, you'll notice above, units listed and inventory at the start of the month. So when you list items in the inventory tab, and when you list them online and then you put them in the inventory tab, you'll want to account for that here. This is a manual entry. It's not going to be automatic. If you don't put anything in here, it's not going to record or track anything for you. You don't have to do this. It's just if you want this number. So let's pretend that in the month of January, I listed 50 items. Each time I list an item, I would increase that number. Or if I list 10 items, I'll come in and add 10 to this number. And then I do this for each month of the year. Sell-through rate will populate once we start to fill in this column here, inventory at start of the month. Basically at the beginning of each month, the first day of the month, I have a calendar reminder that tells me go put in my inventory as it stands at the beginning of each month. So on January 1st of 2024, I'm going to go into eBay and pull the number of total items I have listed. And let's say that that is 100 items. I'm going to put it in right here. I'm going to do this for each month of the year. When I do that, you'll notice sell-through rate populates. Sell-through rate is basically the expediency or how quickly you're turning over your inventory. So out of 100 items that I started with in January, I sold 2 of those units, and that results in a 2% sell-through rate. Typically 20 to 30% is pretty like a good starting point. If you're selling 30%, that's almost a third of your inventory each month. If you get higher than that, that's really good. You're bringing in cash quicker. And then the last column is going to track exactly what it says. We started off with 100 units in January. We listed 50, and we sold 2 of those units, or 2 of our units in the inventory. So that means January, we grew our inventory by 48. And if you see a negative number, that means you sold more than you listed. So you're either growing your inventory or you're declining. The number at the bottom will show you total growth for the year. And then lastly, if you look at row 20 here, the totals, it's going to total up, either total or average, depending on what the column is. All of these stats for you to see what you're doing for the year in view. Now, you don't have to look at those because the next tab is the year tab, and it's basically pulling all of those numbers into here. So you can see like total sales, total profit, etc. I won't go over all these, but just know that there's a quick snapshot right here on the year tab if you want a place to see that. Okay, moving ahead. Let's go to profit and loss. This is new for me this year. I didn't have this on last year's spreadsheet, so I'm going to spend some time explaining this. Basically, the profit and loss statement is taking all of your revenue, so this top section here, your total income, so it brings in all the money you've made, and it subtracts all the money that you've paid, so your cost or expenses. When you look here, platform revenue is going to be that. It's going to pull in all the money you've made, whether it was on eBay, Poshmark, Mercari, Facebook, Depop, whatever it was. It's just all the money you've made in that month. And you can go across and see for the month of January, I logged $32 of sales for all of my platforms. And obviously it goes up from there. Over here to the right tells you your totals. And then you've got your refunds. So when you issue that refund in the sales tab, it's going to kick them into here and subtract that money from the month that you gave the refund. So for example, March, we had total sales of $75. We had a refund of $15. So that leaves us with total income of $60. All of the money you brought in, and of course, taking away the refunds. Manual revenue here, you've got 3 columns. If you want to add in your own revenue, maybe you have a different source of income that you're not tracking on the sheet that you just want to throw in. Let's say you get like a sponsorship money, or you get a little bit of money from YouTube for putting in videos or something, and you want to track that, you can do that. So you just come into manual revenue 1 and type in what it is you're wanting to track. So this is the place where you will type over the manual columns only. And then you'll just come in here, and let's say YouTube says, hey, we sent payment for you in January of $47 for the month. You can come in here and put that manually as income that you earned outside of reselling somewhere else, but you want to track it. So you'll notice that we made $32 in platform revenue. We brought in $47 for YouTube money. That brings total income of $79 on the month. Okay, scrolling down, you'll notice platform fees. This is the total summation of all the platform fees. So eBay, Mercari, any platform fee you sold on and recorded, basically over here, all of these are going to be added in to the P&L in this row. Same thing for shipping labels. Whenever you put in a shipping label cost, it automatically comes over here. You don't need to type in anything. Your expenses are all logged right here. If you remember the expenses that we already typed in, we typed them in here on the Start tab. Now they're pulling in here on the P&L tab. And since you've got up to 15, if you put all 15, those will continue to fill out down here. And again, not to overkill it, but don't type in over these. You'll only type in over the manuals if you choose to use those. And I'll show you how the expenses pull into this P&L here in just a second. But basically, whenever you log expenses on this tab, let's say you bought boxes for $30. Let's just go ahead and do that real quick. This is the expense tab. Let's say in February, on February 3rd, you bought shipping supplies. You bought boxes for $30 on Amazon. We all need supplies to keep the business going. So February 3rd, shipping supplies is the category. I spent $30. I bought boxes on Amazon. And then once you do that, you'll see that shipping supplies had a $30 charge, a cost in February. It pulls in right over here on this chart. You can kind of look at this chart, shows you month by month, expense category by expense category, with the totals here at the bottom for the month and totals for the category for the year. So you can kind of see month to month the cost associated with running your business. But I say all that to say, whenever I entered that shipping supply cost in of 30, you'll notice now it pulls into February over here as a cost. So the great thing is it's fully automated. Your costs are going to transfer over here. And then of course, a total summation of your expenses month by month down here. And the only other thing I'll add here, if you have a manual expense here that you want to keep track of that you didn't put in over here, you can do that on the P&L tab. I suggest getting all of your expenses on this tab because it's automated. No sense in making it manual if it's already automated. But if for some reason you've got all of your 15 categories taken up and you still need another category, you've got 3 here that you can use manually. Just like you did with the manual revenue, you'll type in over manual what you're tracking, and you'll manually put those costs in here. So anyone labeled manual, you can type over, and you'll have to enter in either the revenue or the expenses. Okay, that's a mouthful, and I understand, but this is maybe where talking to an accountant will be helpful for you. But just know that the profit and loss is going to take the money you've received, subtract, so right here, total income, money you've received for the month, subtract the total that you've paid in expenses, not just in selling fees, but also in like boxes or supplies or rent or things like that, and give you your net profit for the month. Based on these few transactions I've entered, my net profit, so total profit for January is $66.42. So that's how you kind of interpret this chart. I look at this sheet pretty frequently. I love seeing where I'm how I'm doing month to month, as well as how I'm doing for the year. Okay, that's the P&L statement. This gives you the quick snapshot of where your business is across your whole financial picture. So if we go over to the platforms tab, it starts to pull in your data based on those sites. So in January, we made one sale on eBay for $20. Our average sales price is $20. In February, we made 2 sales on eBay for $72, and we're averaging $36 for those 2 sales. And it will tell you what percent of your business that month is eBay versus the rest of your site. So 63% of my business for January was eBay, and in February, eBay was 100% of my business. This is kind of fun to compare how your platforms are doing against the others. And then if you scroll all the way down, you've got a fun 3D pie graph here that explains for the year total, here's what your sales look like. 51.4% eBay for the year, 41.9% Mercari, and 6.7% Poshmark. So out of all your sales and money collected, eBay is over half. That's the platform tab, and I think you'll have fun with that as you start to log sales. So let's jump over to stores. You'll notice that we log some sales according to these stores. So far, we've made 1 sale in the year from an item we bought at Goodwill Bentonville, and it will give you all the information for that as well. So that's the stores tab, and you'll continue to get more data as you add more. Categories, again, just the same. We've added more categories in the start tab, so you'll notice more here. But here are the categories that we made sales from. We've actually got 1 from each category. We don't have a sale yet from men's pants, but here are all the category sales. And this will give you an idea of which categories are doing the best for you, which ones are doing the worst. The fun part is you can sort either the store tab or the category tab much the same way. So let's say I want to know which category is bringing in the most sales. I can highlight this column, click the arrow or right click and click sort sheet. You can see that it's sorted electronics as the one that's brought in the most sales. I can also do average days to sell, which items are moving the fastest. If I look at this, it's sorted to say that men's shirts are selling faster than any other category in my store right now. Hopefully not to confuse you, but if you want to sort this column alphabetically, you can do that as well. So much the same way, you're going to highlight column B, A to Z, and it's going to alphabetize each column, and notice that it sorts the rest of the data. And the reason why that is important is if you go back to the inventory tab and you're looking at category, you can have these pop up alphabetized so that you're not trying to find that category later on. Okay, that's store and categories tab. You don't have to use this data. You don't have to fill out that information here and here if you don't want to. It's up to you. If that takes up too much time for you, don't do that, and you'll be fine. It's just if you want that information, fill it in, you'll be good to go. And by the way, thanks for hanging with me so far. I know this is a longer video, but I want to make sure that you understand as best I can to explain this to you, to get the most out of all these tools, because let's be honest, having these tools will help you in your business. Okay, so on the bin tab, basically the bin tab will tell you how much you have in each bin. So let's go back, and since we've already deleted out the inventory because we made them as sales, let's just add one in real quick, and then let's put in the men's free fly shirt, and we're going to say that went in bin A3. Now we go back to bins here, and here's where we're going to list out all the bins that we use to store items. So let's say that shelf is first, and then we'll go A1, A2, A3, A4, and so on and so forth. You'll notice that when I start to type in a bin where I have an item in inventory, it will tabulate the summation here. So according to this sheet and according to my inventory, I've got 2 items in inventory, one on the shelf and one in A3, and it's counting for that here. You've got 1 item on the shelf, 1 in A3, and then your total inventory down here. So this is important for me because from time to time, as I'm running through inventory, making sure I've got everything listed, I will frequently look at this bin tab to make sure that I've accounted for all of my inventory and that something hasn't fallen through the cracks. So that's how you can use that. Use as many of these 144 as you want. Just fill in these blank columns and don't do anything with the numbers because the numbers have formulas built in. Okay, we're getting near the end. Thanks for hanging with me. Let's move on to the expense tab. I kind of explained this. You know how to log expenses, and you choose the month, the day, the category that you bought, whatever you bought in or whatever expense occurred. So real quickly, let's say on March 20th, I was charged $40 for my Vendu subscription. I'm just going to put that in, and you'll notice that for software and apps, I was charged $40 in the month of March. And then again, if we go back to the profit and loss statement in March, that $40 is counted for here for software and apps in March. Boom, boom. Okay, so one more thing that I just thought of that you'll want to keep track of on the expense tab is cost of goods. How much you're paying at thrift stores, yard sales to get the items that you are flipping. So we're going to go back to the start tab, and I'm just going to go ahead and add this real quick. Cost of goods. We go back to the expense tab, and there it is. Now we have an option to select it. So each time you go to the store and you buy items, you need to log how much you're spending for the total receipt, including tax, if you're being charged tax, in the expense tab. So if in March on the 25th, I go to Goodwill and purchase $100 worth of items, I'm going to put that in here. $100 Goodwill in March. Quick question you may be thinking is, well, aren't you keeping track of that on the inventory tab in the cost section? Yes, you are. So you're putting each item's cost here, but that's not going into the profit and loss statement. Only the expenses on this tab are going into the profit and loss statement. So in order to make sure you're accounting for the total that you're spending, make sure that you put this amount in down to the penny as cost of goods. The cost of goods in the sales tab is just to give you an idea of how much you paid for it and what your profit is on that item that you sold. It's purely just like an educational thing to help you gain an understanding of what items are going for what profits. As far as knowing how much you spent in total for the year, that will take account on the expense tab. Okay, moving on. Let's go to mileage. I know a lot of people use apps for their miles, and that's okay. You don't have to use this, but if you want to, here it is. You're going to simply put in the date, the beginning odometer, so what you started at, the ending odometer, and then this will automatically calculate your miles. And then I just include a little note saying the stores that I went to. And then this will calculate total miles for the year. Okay, that's pretty simple. Home office, you may be able to write off a portion of your home if you're using it for like storing items or running your business, shipping out of. And you can keep track of things here like your bills, like heating, water, trash, your cell phone bill, internet, things like that. So this is completely manual with the exception of the totals. If you do want to track this, what you're going to do is just come in here, put the bill. So let's say I'm going to put my water bill and then electric bill. And then for each month, I'm going to put the total that I spent, the total of my bills here. So if in January 2024, my water bill was $67.17, I'll put that in. Basically, this will give your accountant the idea of how much you spent on your home for the year, and they can do what they need to do with those numbers to make sure you get the credit for the home office if you're eligible for that. You've got up to 10 different bill columns that you can track. So just type over the bill 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 all the way up, depending on how many you want to use. And then lastly down here, if you want to keep track of like maintenance that you're doing on your home, you may be able to write off a portion of that as well. So just type in the date, the description, put the amount that you spent, who you paid, what company you used, and then your accountant or tax professional will know what to do with those numbers if you qualify. So I'm not going to guarantee that you qualify because, again, I'm not a tax expert. I don't give legal advice, but this is just to track it if you want to. The last tab that I'm excited to share with you is a new tab as well, and this is the Consignment tab. And basically for those people who are selling items for other people and you're taking a cut of it, here's how you can keep track of that. So the great thing about this is you can copy and paste your sales from the sales tab into here without ever having to really type in a number. This is a blank template. You may have 3 different people that you're working with. You may only have 1. In order to use this, you'll want to create a duplicate of this sheet and then title it for the person that you're working with. I sell things for my neighbor. I've got things that I sell for my dad or my uncle, things like that, and I just create different sheets for each of those people. So what you're going to do is you're going to click on Consignment Template, right click, and click Duplicate. You'll notice now you have a copy of the consignment template. Now I'm going to double click this until it highlights, and I'm going to rename this to neighbor. This is my neighbor that I'm selling for. So now this tab is tracking all of his sales. Right here where it says their rate, this is the rate that you're giving them. So for this example, let's just say that I take 60% of the profit and I give him 40%. You're going to put in here the rate that they get, not what you get, obviously their rate. So I'm going to put in 40%. And this will take that into account on this sheet. Now you may be saying, well, is it 40% of the profit or is it 40% of the sales price? You can do either. You'll notice here I've got total if percent of sale price and total if percent of profit. So you just keep track of which one you're doing, and then it will tabulate how much you owe them each month for items that you're selling. Don't let this confuse you. Basically, quick way to do this is, okay, I'm selling items for the neighbor. Let's pretend that I got this from the neighbor. I'm going to come in here, go all the way over to the year. I'm going to copy everything all the way across through transaction fee, and that's it. So I'm going to copy that, the year column, all the way to the transaction fee. And then when I go back to my neighbor sheet, I'm going to click in the first year cell and paste it. And it's going to paste it in. And you'll notice it automatically calculates based for this specific sale, what you'll give them based on the percent that you have agreed on. These two are your payout columns. That means that's the money that comes to you, which you've already collected the money, so you don't need to give it to yourself. It's already in your account. What you really want to know is what's their payment. Here's their payout if you're taking a percent of the sale price. Here's their payout if you're taking a percent of the profit for this individual item. You don't need to look at that because it's all totaled over here. I've logged this first sale. Let's go ahead and log another one for the neighbor. So let's say the neighbor gave me this Sony PlayStation 4. I'm going to go all the way through transaction fee, copy, back to neighbor, click on the first year, paste it in. You'll notice now that was for March. It went ahead and told me my totals for March. So at the end of the month, when I recorded all the sales that were for that person, the neighbor, it will tell me how much I owe them. So keep in mind here, this first column is a percent of the sale price, again, and a percent of the profit. So whatever your agreement is, if I said I'm giving him 40% of the profit, that means at the end of this month, I would write him a check or Venmo him $362. And you can see that each month, month by month, with a total at the bottom for how much you've given them in total. All right, simple enough. So that's pretty much the sheet, guys. That's it. I've shown you all the tabs. So what if you're a returning user? You used 2023 or a previous year. Let me show you how to bring in your inventory. So we'll go all the way back to inventory. Let's delete these out. I'm gonna go to this top tab, and let's say that this is last year's spreadsheet. I now need to bring in that inventory over to the new one. Okay, so I'm gonna click on this first column, listed date. I'm going to scroll all the way over. You can bring in notes and XP if you'd like to do that as well. And then you're going to scroll all the way down to the very last inventory line. Make sure I've got all the columns in there. You're going to copy it. And then when you go over to your 2024 premium sheet, you're going to go all the way to the top, click that listed date cell, and paste it right in. You can see that was painless. It transferred over. It was just a few clicks, and instantly you've got all of your inventory from your last sheet to bring in, and it's all there. And now when you start to list new inventory, you can go to the bottom line and start afresh right there in 2024. That's the sheet, guys. That's the 2024 premium reseller spreadsheet. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I hope I cleared a lot of the how-tos on this for you so that you can start using this right away, January 1st, and have some fun looking at your numbers. I hope you have a great year with reselling, and I'm looking forward to hearing how it goes for you. Have a great one. We'll see you.